This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on current diplomatic relations between India and Canada. The participants are Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Anubha Rohatgi, anchor.
Mr. Sajjanhar, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Sajjanhar, in the last few days, there has been an escalation in the diplomatic row between India and Canada. What is at the root of this present situation, and where do relations between the two nations stand now?
Anubha, if you look at it, it is in fact more than a year ago when the whole thing erupted. That was on the 18th of September 2023, when the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he stood up in the Canadian Parliament and he charged that Indian agents were behind the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar on 18th of June 2023. You asked about what is the root cause of this. I would say that the root cause is that the Canadian government, Justin Trudeau now himself, and if you look at it before him in the 1980s, his father Pierre Trudeau also, they are pandering to the interests of the extremists who are based in Canada for vote bank politics. If we were to take the case of Justin Trudeau himself, in the elections to the Canadian Parliament that took place in 2021, he won 153 seats and he was short by about 15 seats to get a majority in the Parliament. So he had to rely on the party of Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, that is the New Democratic Party, who had won about 25 seats in the elections. So he has become so dependent on the support of the NDP, of the New Democratic Party, that he has been succumbing to all sorts of pressures that have been exercised, that have been put on him by this party, and all the requests that have been made by India for extraditing of many of these people who have gone to Canada, they have been disregarded. So I think that at the root cause that the Liberal Party of Justin Trudeau has been willing to sacrifice its own national interest of having good relations with the largest democracy in the world, that is India, and for narrow personal political ends, they have been willing to sacrifice this relationship.
MEA spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal had put out India's position in this matter. He outrightly rejected the false imputations against the Indian diplomats.
We have made our position very clear on this particular matter. Since September of 2023, the Canadian government has not shared any shred of information with us. We had again issued a statement saying that Canada has leveled serious allegations but has so far not given any evidence to back it up. As far as the allegations are concerned, PM Trudeau's own admission would indicate the value. As regards our stance on the allegations, we will naturally reject false imputations against our diplomats. We had summoned the acting High Commissioner of Canada and thereafter conveyed that we had no faith that the Canadian government will look after the safety of our diplomats, and therefore we had taken a decision to withdraw our High Commissioner and along with him 5 other diplomats. India-Canada ties, economic ties are very strong and vibrant. We have a lot of Canadian pension funds who are invested here. We have a large Indian diaspora in Canada, which is a bridge through which we maintain very strong people-to-people links with Canada. We have a large, possibly the largest cohort of international students in Canada as well. We hope this particular crisis has been precipitated by Trudeau government's baseless allegations.
So for the benefit of our listeners, can you tell us how are the present diplomatic relations between the two countries?
I said that on the 18th of September, he made a charge. He said in the parliament that there are credible allegations that India is involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. He had apparently had a conversation with the Indian Prime Minister Modi, when he was in India for the G20 summit on the 9th and 10th of September. But we had asked the Canadian side, the Indian side had asked Canada to provide evidence, to provide proof. As against this, the charge that he made in the parliament was that there are credible allegations. Now, I'm sure your listeners will be able to make out that this is an oxymoron. This is a contradiction in terms. If anything has to be credible, there has to be proof, there has to be evidence. But he said there are allegations. Allegations can be leveled by anyone against anyone, and there is no credibility per se, prima facie, of any of these charges. So, over this time from 18 September 2023, till today, Canada has not been able to furnish, as our Foreign Office spokesperson has said, shred of evidence to prove the charge that Indian security forces or Indian intelligence services have been involved in this. I think to compound matters, we received a message, a communication. Indian side received a communication from Canada a few days ago, saying that the Indian High Commissioner in Canada, Sanjay Kumar Verma, and 5 officers of the Indian High Commission, that they are persons of interest, which means that Canada thinks that they are involved in some such illegal activities in Canada, and they requested that their diplomatic immunity be done away with, be removed, so that Canada can undertake questioning and interrogation of the Indian High Commissioner and the officers. Now, this is such an absurd, such a preposterous request that the Indian government very strongly, completely turned it down and told its officers that should come back to India because Indian government found lost confidence in the Canadian authorities that they would be able to provide safety and security to our diplomatic personnel in Canada. So they were immediately asked to return. And the same time, the same day, the acting High Commissioner of Canada in India was summoned to the Foreign Office. And our Secretary East, Mr. Jaideep Majumdar, told him that what Canada had said in its note, that was totally unacceptable, and India is withdrawing its High Commissioner and 5 of its officers, and it was expelling the acting High Commissioner, the Deputy High Commissioner, and 4 other officers of Canada from India for carrying out anti-Indian activities. So that is where the situation rests. The Canadian Prime Minister has been investigated. He has been questioned by one of the
Yes.
commissions on this issue in Canada recently, that is 2 days ago. And there he confirmed that Canada did not have any hard evidence, any hard proof against any of the Indian involvement of any of the Indian officials in either the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar or what they are claiming that Indian operatives, Indian High Commission, Indian diplomatic officers are involved in spreading, taking action against Canadian citizens of Indian origin who
Right.
are of Sikh ethnicity, and that Indian operatives are taking action against them. And even they have charged that one of the illegal gangs against whom India itself has been acting, that it is acting in concert with the Indian government to take action again, to carry out illegal activities in Canada against Canadian citizens of Indian origin. We find this totally unfounded, totally baseless, and that is why India has drawn its 6 officers from its High Commission in Ottawa and expelled 6 diplomats from the Canadian High Commission in New Delhi.
Mr. Sajana, like you just said, that Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has now admitted just 2 days ago that Ottawa has no evidentiary proof to support its allegations linking Indian government agents to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. And MEA comment, or rather remark immediately after that, was that it proves what India has been saying all along. So do you see this as a major win for India's stance?
Definitely, I think as far as arguments go, it is a major win. But I think, like Justin Trudeau had shot himself in the foot on the 18th of September by claiming that there were credible allegations against India. Right now, by expanding, and the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, has leveled all these charges and allegations against India. They have, and saying that, they have no hard evidentiary proof against India's involvement. They have literally shot themselves in the head But yes, it is definitely a win. It vindicates India's position that not a shred of evidence has been provided, and these charges and allegations are totally baseless, and they are being made for narrow political gains. But still, the sum and substance of this whole episode is that great damage has been done to relations between India and Canada. That shouldn't have been, and this is also, I think, the manner in which in Canada benefits from engagement with India, that is going to suffer as it goes along in the coming days.
NDP has withdrawn its support. Prime Minister Trudeau has survived 2 no-confidence motions in the parliament just this month. What do you think of the timing of the present allegations?
Since last year, from September, when he made those allegations, and I think it will be illustrative for our listeners to pay attention to the fact that the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar took place in June of 2023. Now it is more than 16 months have elapsed. And I understand that 4 people have been arrested by the RCMP, by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. But we still don't have any charges, any evidence whatsoever. So I think Mr. Trudeau has been finding his back to the wall, and he finds that, the ground is slipping under his feet. So he has resorted to such actions that if he's able to demonstrate that he is taking full care and protecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the countries, and we will start getting more support from the people. But that, unfortunately for him, it is not happening. So I think we'll really have to now wait for the elections that take place in 2025.
Meanwhile, Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson also said that the Canadian government has not taken any action against anti-India elements as requested by the Indian government.
We have seen those comments of Prime Minister Trudeau that he believes in one India policy. But so far, the actions that we have requested against anti-India elements who actually go against one India, who call for dismemberment and disunity of the country, who espouse separatist ideology, no action has been taken. So, in a sense, there is a difference. There is a gap between action and words here. I have told what we think of the matter.
So how have the relations been between India and Canada in the past few years?
This was the second election that Trudeau won in 2021, and before that he had won the election in 2017, I think. Before that it was Stephen Harper, who was from the Conservative Party, and I think till that time the relations were good. You might recall that even Prime Minister Modi had visited Canada in 2015. That was a good visit. We were planning to take our relationship forward. We were planning also to be engaged in negotiations for a free trade agreement between the two countries. Canada also has very large supplies of uranium. We were planning to import uranium, also sign a civil nuclear energy deal with Canada. But all this has come to not during the tenure of Justin Trudeau. He had made a visit to India for 1 week. He had come here, but for the first 6-7 days, he kept going all over India, basically again trying to pander, trying to reach out to his vote bank, and not really focusing on the substantive partnership, taking the substantive relationship between India and Canada forward. In fact, in his delegation, there were elements which were inimical to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India. They were against the unity of India, and in working towards creation of a separate state against whom India had also made charges against him. That having been said, I think it needs to be recognized that the Canadian Pension Fund is invested in a big way in India. We have a large number of students in Canada. We have about 1.8 million people, which is about 5% of the total population of Canada. And their people-to-people connect between the two countries is very strong. And I am hopeful that these other elements of the relationship will at least continue, if not strengthen, that they will not be very seriously adversely impacted upon by the crisis in which bilateral relations have come to.
Mr. Sajjanhar, thank you so much for speaking with Akashvani.
It's a pleasure, Anubhav. Thank you very much for having me.
You were listening to a discussion on current diplomatic relations between India and Canada. The participants were Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Anubha Rohadgi, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 928-909-4044.